All right, I want to welcome everyone here today at Orlando at the CFE Arena in University of Central Florida. This is the RoboShow, here live with myself. My name is Gabriel, and we're here with Dr. Woodie Flowers. So
Hi, Gabe.
Thank you so much for being here today.
It's great to be here.
Thank you. This is the 20th time that we've had a regional for FIRST Robotics in Florida, and we're so thankful that you're able to come and join us. Since its inception with FIRST, how have you been involved, and why do you like this so much?
Why do I like FIRST so much?
Yes.
FIRST is the right blend of the right stuff. It has a lot to do with the robot and the laws of nature, learning about how things really work, and it has to do with learning about yourself and society, and it all fits together. And both those things are really important to the future of young people.
It's amazing. And just to let you know, I've been an alumni back in 2002, been mentor since then, and just been able to give back to my community. So it's very important for me, and it's also seeing you as a role model being here today, just a little bit starstruck. So
it's great to be here.
Amazing. Tell us a little bit more about the shirts and the signatures that you have on them.
Sure. Well, early in the FIRST world, I was the only MC, and I started all the matches. So teams gave me things, and they gave me their pins, and I wore a vest, and the pins would get stuck to the vest, and the Mardi Gras beads and stuff. And the last vest that I wore weighed 26 pounds at the end of the season, and getting through airport security became almost impossible. So I decided that I wanted to be able to graciously stop accepting gifts. And the way I thought might do that is I could say, I'll take your signature or your autograph rather than a pin or a t-shirt or a cap. And that turned out to be really wonderful because it was a great way to meet people. I mean, you stand close to someone and you make eye-to-eye contact, and they, sign, and that's a nice thing to do. So the shirts, I have close to 20. And each one has more than 1,000 signatures on it, and their history of FIRST. There's some U.S. presidents' signatures on them, and deans, and my wife Margaret, and a whole bunch of future Nobel Prize winners from the FIRST community. So the shirts are a wonderful statement about the history of FIRST, and if a team out there has a good idea about how they might use them to raise awareness of FIRST or raise funds, then propose something. I'll donate them.
That's amazing. Do you have them safely kept in a closet?
They're in a closet.
They're in a closet right now.
But they're not doing as much good as they could.
It's true. So maybe have them visit, different regionals,
sure,
or have a showcase
whatever.
of them, at World Championship perhaps, or something like that.
And you could imagine a website where they were carefully photographed, and you could find your signature from 2002 and tag it, and other people could see that and say, well, I was there too, and my signature's over here. It might be a reunion thing.
It's a novel idea. I like it.
Okay.
We'll definitely go it.
You got it.
We'll make it happen. We'll have a community be able to get together, create a website, something really neat to be able to do that.
All right.
I love it. Earlier this morning, you're very poignant with your speech about, in a nutshell, like the societal impact that FIRST has, and in relation to things going on nowadays, like with the news and the media. So can you elaborate a little bit more about that and your take on it?
It's hard to make that a super short answer, but
and that's fine.
It's frightening that we adults have abandoned objective truth to the degree that we have. And altogether too often in the news in the last week, I've heard a person in a responsible position say, well, I should have the right to believe. No, you don't. I mean, belief is about something more than that. It's, in particular, objective truth is an important component of belief. So you don't get to arbitrarily believe whatever you want. And this week in the New York Times, there was a very provocative short article about Fake App, the AI-powered free software where you can rent time from Google to have all the compute power you need, and you can take Gabe's head and put it on Woody's body and run this video with us swapped and have it done well enough that nobody could tell who was who. So now the public has access to a way to create fraudulent things in spades. So these young people here have to develop an acute filter to find truth even though the ways they can be deceived are getting much, much more sophisticated. So that's a big deal. Not only do they have to learn how to find truth, but they still have to be able to do things machines cannot yet do by mid-career. And that's not trivial. Most of the things that I learned how to do, the analytical techniques that I spent 11 years as a college student in mechanical engineering learning to do, are not done anymore. Most of them is just a keystroke, boom. And the stuff that really matters is kind of the fundamental understanding that allows you to know what to do the keystroke about, and the kind of empathetic response that you need to have to society so you end up doing something that's reasonable and right.
Do you feel with the access of technology and means to do complicated things very easily with a keystroke as an example you're providing, is that due to automation? Is it due to not understanding the tools effectively, or is it just the way that they're...
The ability to make that happen, someone did understand well enough to implement an incredibly complex system to make it happen. What we have to do is make sure that the people that are using that tool use it well. And to me, the differentiation between training and education is much more important than ever. Yesterday in the vehicle, I was grumbling about I had a Apple Pen and I couldn't tell what the charge level in the pen was, and I was getting an indication that it wasn't right. And someone else in the vehicle said, well, just ask Siri. And they were being sarcastic, but I did ask Siri, and I got an immediate answer. And so, it's really amazing what has happened. Too many people in the general public don't know enough to be in awe. We just found gravity waves. I mean, those guys did something that's just impossible. I mean, they measured to 12 decimal places the find end of nothing whittled to a fine point. I mean, they detected an explosion that happened 13 billion years ago, and they measured it in Louisiana and in the Northwest, and they lined up. And they were measuring displacements that were less than parts of an atom. And they matched. Now, so that didn't happen because humans had come to understand the laws of the universe, kind of. They nailed it. So that particular news story was buried. Most people didn't notice, didn't care. Those technologies, I don't. So it's really wonderful that the first community is a whole bunch of people who are learning enough about the universe to be in awe of things. I mean, we've sent a rocket that found a comet and put a thing down on it that was 14 years away and billions of miles. So we are appropriately in awe of what we can do with technology now. But on the human side of the equation, we have a brain that mostly evolved before any of this was happening. I mean, our brain was formed and evolved to a point 150,000 years ago where we were really good at avoiding saber-toothed tigers in the savannah. But we need to do more than that now. And we've still got some of those same pre-wired circuits that are good at avoiding. And if you look at sexual attraction, yeah, it can be empathetic love or it can be rape. You got to pick one or the other. And your natural brain is not going to do it for you.
Right. Your
intellect, your curiosity about the way your own brain works is the only tool you got to make that happen. If you look at tribalism, tribalism is really, really powerful. And it's in there either saying we're going to help one another or we're going to kill the other guy. So learning about objective truth and learning about how your brain works is a good way to sort and pick one of those. And if you look at confirmation bias, we now understand that our brain is wired to agree. Gabe, you and I are in the same tribe.
Right.
We both survive and our DNA is propagated if we don't kill each other because we voice disagreement.
Right.
We don't seek objective truth out there. We agree with each other. So confirmation bias is pre-wired in. And if you look at the way things are going in culture in this country, confirmation bias is overwhelmingly powerful. And most people don't know or don't care that it's there.
It's amazing that people sometimes go day to day not to contemplate, the bigger picture,
Oh, yeah.
about how their lives are affected and stuff like that, and grandeur, and being able to articulate that and break that down to students to understand that and be perceptive to that feedback and that information is critical. It's absolutely important for us to have a proper trajectory. With that said, and in relation with First, from its conception generation ago to where it is now, how has First influenced that dialogue?
Well, I think First is a great example that it can work. Dean has been a wonderful influence because Dean is a really smart guy. He's incredibly energetic, and he's driving toward big and changing culture. And the good news is that we started with a really good foundation.
Yes.
The mix of technology and gracious professionalism is robust. We've done some really stupid things in First, and the First community, you guys have forgiven us, but we've gotten enough stuff right that it's healthy. So now it's delightful that it is an existence proof on a very large scale that says, to some extent, if you create an environment in which the right things are celebrated, you get the right things. And I know that it's scary for somebody to say the right things, but the stuff that I'm talking about is not controversial. It's not cult-like. It's just respectful hard work, the kind of things that happen in the First community. So, I'm delighted that the underpinnings of the robotics competition and gracious professionalism are still growing at MIT. And the senior design course there is an outstanding example of what true education should be. And it has to do with being part of something big and doing something that matters. And those are components that are all over First. So I think First is big enough now that it has much grander influence than it ever did. Right now at MIT, there is a new program called NEET, Next Engineering Education Transition. And it's about stuff that's so much like First. It's just wonderful to watch it happen. So maybe, Dean wanted to change culture. I always said we got to fix the education problem. Maybe we're doing both.
If you had more influence than you do right now within the community, or if you have an ideal version of the world or the culture you have, would it be similar to what you've established with First, or do you have a bigger end game in mind?
Well, I think that the bigger end game for me is to, so a quick example that's kind of awkward, but in 1994, when there was some good data, 600,000 college freshmen took calculus, 250,000 failed. If you say that each one of those failures was worth $2,000, that's $500 million for one course at one level. It's what it costs to do the movie Avatar every time this cycle cranks through. So it makes economic sense to really invest in doing a better version of the training of calculus. It's not education in calculus. It's just training. It's passing the test. Just, I can integrate this thing. So my dream world is that we have AI-powered tutors that do the training, and the tutor that works with Woody would know that Woody is ADHD and dyslexic, and he needs this kind of special stuff, and he's not very good at this, so it pokes him more and comes back and says, did you really learn this? And that AI system would be informed by all of the new things that we have learned about how to teach and how to learn. So we would get training out of the way. So everyone would have their own transcript that lived in the cloud. And if you wanted to hire me, I could say, I would like Gabe to have this part of my transcript. And you could say, oh, this is right. And I see in depth, I can see that you went far enough down. But the stuff that really matters is the true education piece. So if we get training out of the way, we have room for real education. And real education would be modeled largely after First, where mentoring is what you do. You get together with your colleagues and an expert and work on a hard problem. And to me, true education is about, it's about knowing from personal experience that you can do something that's really hard, that you can do something kind, that you can do something ethically complex, that you can do something for others, that you can do something beautiful. And that resume or transcript is in you. It's not on paper or in a computer somewhere. And that's the one that really counts. So I would want to morph, there are a whole bunch of kids that don't do well in math because they had a bad math teacher. An AI tutor for them would be better. So we could democratize training and focus on the real valuable thing, which is true education.
Through education, you feel that would be the key result in resolving a lot of the modern issues we have nowadays?
It bothers me that I see, quote, very well educated people doing stuff that I think is really stupid. but that, that's my confirmation bias, and I at least have the sense to recognize that I'm, my tribe is, one level is 1,000 faculty at MIT, and there's some coherence there, but I still believe that if we have any chance of making sure that we don't blow ourselves up or destroy the planet or destroy each other, that it will be because we have learned to make more rational choices. And, this morning I could have said, look, we've had several generations of show me the money. We need several generations of show me the data. So we need to get people to learn to think differently. And I believe the traditional liberal arts education model of critical thinking is okay, but I think there's another one, and it has to do with nerd epistemology.
That was a key phrase you mentioned earlier in the speech today. You mentioned that there's a reference online at MIT's website. Is that correct with that? Would it be search under Woodie Flowers to be able to view that?
Yeah, if you search for Woodie Flowers and nerd epistemology, I think you'll find it. I tried that, and a student review of my talk came up, but I think you can find a link to the video of it through her reviews.
Awesome. Woodie, is there anything else you would like to share with the community itself about not just your involvement, but FIRST as a whole, and what they can do to help not just our community here, FIRST, our tribe, as you describe it, but also the people around them?
Well, the FIRST community is a whole bunch of people that are being role models for what ought to happen. So please hang on to that notion and think that you're on display all the time. When I first started talking about what became gracious professionalism to the sophomores and juniors at MIT in 270, the course that happened a long time ago, I said, you guys ought to behave as if your grandmother's going to watch a nationally televised version of what you did, and you're going to have to talk to your grandmother after the program airs. And they all got it. So make your grandmother proud. You'll do FIRST well.
Woodie, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Gabe.
I appreciate it.
Okay, bye-bye.
Signing off. Thank you.